We're live. Let's get this going. Eagles, Giants, Week 18. Let's wrap the season up on a high note. We're going to preview, predict this game, and we're going to play a little game of start 'em or sit 'em. Who should play and who should not play on Sunday in East Rutherford, New Jersey. We're live, taking your thoughts and opinions and comments on all things Eagles right here on Training the AM, live in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, X. You know the drill. Hit the like, share, subscribe, follow, retweet button, depending on which platform you are watching on. Make sure you do that and make sure you get in the conversation as we talk Eagles, Giants, Week 18, preview prediction, and like I said at the cold open, our little game of start 'em or sit 'em. Which Eagles players should be playing Sunday, which shouldn't? Should they all play? Should none of them play? Who knows? We're going to get into all of that today. If you're watching anywhere, make sure you drop your comments, your thoughts. If you're watching on Twitter, which has been back now for about 2 weeks, you can comment on the show. Just click the video, opens up a box for comments, pop up on my screen. I put them up, and I will address them live on the air. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, as I am here every single morning on Trending in the AM. The end of Week 1 of Season 3 of this great show. So we're here. I'm Phil. You can follow me at Bearded Knowledge on all platforms. If I'm there, that would be my handle. And look, guys, we got lots to talk about today. The Eagles do have their Week 18 game against the Giants this week, and it is in East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium in North Jersey there. And it's an intriguing game. It's an interesting game with an interesting theory and topic to revolve around it. The Eagles are, let's just say, 90-ish% likely to finish in that 5 seed in the playoffs. There is a distant chance that the Cowboys lose to Washington this weekend, but it's very, very, very slim chance. So the main topic, the main theory or conversation point is, when a team has played as poorly as the Eagles have over the last 5 weeks, but there's not really much to play for this week, do you take route one and say, well, we need to try to get some rhythm back? I don't want to use the word get right because they haven't been right all year, but you continue to try to build some momentum, play your guys and whatnot, or do you rest as many of your starters as you can and keep them healthy on what is known as one of the worst turfs in football up there in East Rutherford, New Jersey? And I think there's an argument to be made for both sides of the argument, whether you go one way or the other. And that's what we really got to think about today, as we get set for Sunday's afternoon tilt. Good morning, Bucci. How you doing? Eagles seem like they are on the ropes. Yeah, they do seem like they're on the ropes. And it's funny that makes me think of one of the things I wrote down for today's show. And it's not that they're on the ropes. I kind of feel like they're still like, I don't know. There's still a lot of preseason issues with this team, communication, a lot of mixed messages, a lot of mixed signals. Hassan Reddick had comments yesterday that I want to get into today. And those comments just kind of, highlight what some of the main issues this season have been. So I don't know how to get off the ropes. You just let them rest this week, Joe. Just sit back. Sometimes taking a week back, sitting back and resting, relax. It's like benching a starter in basketball. A hitter in baseball that's in a deep slump, you give them a day off. They just sit and watch, and then they come back better than ever. There's that argument that gets them off the ropes. There's also the argument that you play them, you push them harder, And then that, in turn, kind of puts you in a, maybe get you in a good rhythm. The Giants are going to be playing a lot of their backups. They want to lose, just like the Cardinals did last week, though. They're going to do everything they can to play hard, but conservative enough that they don't win the game. It's all for these bad teams. It's all about draft pick, positioning at this point. And it was the same thing with the Cardinals. I mean, I saw reports that upper management in Arizona was pissed that the Cardinals won on Sunday, and they tried to lose that game. So even if they try to lose, it doesn't mean the Eagles are going to win, obviously, based off the way we played in Arizona. They need to get some reps in to build into next week because they haven't been right in a long time. But, Joe, we are in week 18. Can you really get right in week 18? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I'm torn on my opinion, torn on my philosophy. Because my question is, beating the Giants' second and third string. Say the Eagles play all their starters the entire game. The Giants play second and third stringers. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor is going to be their quarterback. And say we put a whooping on the Giants, like 40-6. Does beating the Giants' backups and backups that badly get you right? Or does it just give you a false sense of hope, false sense of security? Which way does it go? And I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure how that would be used as a building block or not. What if you do that 40-6, but say, God forbid, knock on wood, DeAndre Swift hurts his knee, or Devontae Smith, who shouldn't play, plays because you got to get right, and then re-injures or further injures his ankle. It's clear as day how many injuries happen regularly on that turf up there in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So it's hard to pinpoint what the accurate way to do is. Now I can tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. They need to head into the playoffs on a positive note. Got to play their starters 100%. Peanut, okay, I get your opinion. I hear your opinion. I see your opinion. My question is, do you play them all? So for me, my philosophy going into the game would be you play your starters, at least for a little bit. As many of your stars as you can. But anybody remotely close with knee, ankle, foot, leg, lower, we could use a hockey term, lower body injuries. Any Eagles with lower body injuries are 100% out. So that would eliminate Darius Slay, who they say could be back. That would eliminate Devontae Smith from the game. That would eliminate Zach Cunningham, all who practiced somewhat this week already. So if this was a playoff game, Slay, Cunningham, and Smith would probably play. Well, Smith hasn't practiced yet, Devontae. Those guys are 100% out for me. No doubt about it. I would consider playing everybody else for the first half of the game, and then in the second half, get Mariota some reps. This could be the Rashad Penny game, something like that. I wouldn't push DeAndre Swift too hard, but I would start every healthy body to start the game, and then a lot of them would get the second half off. Someone like Jordan Davis, which is a controversial topic, whether he's lazy and out of shape or a bust or a bad pick, whatever. That conversation's been talked a lot this week. If he's really, really just gassed at this point, guess what? Jordan Davis ain't playing. Fletcher Cox is definitely not playing the second half of the game. Those key pieces, those key cogs, I'm gonna pump the brakes on them a little bit. Now, on the flip side, the young starters, the Keely Ringos of the world, the Sidney Browns, would be playing the entire game, getting more reps, getting more experience. Knock on wood, that no one gets hurt. But if one of them got hurt, you still have James Bradbury, Darius Slay, and whatnot coming back. Avonte Maddox, he came back. He didn't look great last week against the Cardinals. He would play very minimally this week in this game. You're going to need your cornerbacks in tip-top shape next week, especially if it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin that you've got to defend. I just say play them enough to win and be done with the game. Winning by 40 doesn't help. Well, I know winning by 40 is not likely. I mean, I wrote down 6 predictions here for this week's game because I got one with the starters playing the whole game and one-sided predictions if they sit them or sit them partially, whatnot. I was just using the 40. Like, what good does it do winning, period, or losing? The only good that can come out of winning is if there's a miraculous upset by the Washington Commanders or the Dallas Cowboys. Then you need to win. And you can still win the division, get a home field game next week, et cetera, et cetera. But that's very unlikely. You can see something else about what the world thinks of this game and the Cowboys Washington game based off the betting lines. Cowboys need to win to lock up that division. They control their own destiny. They're going to play their starters. They're double-digit favorites over the Commanders. We going up against the Giants and how we've played, we are only 6-point favorites against the 5-win New York Giants. The same Giants team we beat 2 weeks ago. And playing your stars, beating the Giants doesn't get you right. We beat the Giants already to end the 3-game losing streak or 4-game losing streak, whatever it was. Because then we came back the next week and lost to the Cardinals, an atrocious team. So winning and dominating the Giants doesn't necessarily provide the get right attitude that we need and are looking for as well. How long is that? The defense is porous right now. Yeah. And, the Giants, again, are not going to try to win this game. They're going to play. The players will play hard, but the coaches will probably call a very cautious, conservative game plan to try to hold them back a little bit. But the players are going to play. A lot of guys on the Giants, second, third stringers on a bad team, they don't have guaranteed futures. A lot of these guys are going to get game tape or gameplay on tape for their next contracts, for their agents to get them jobs in the future. They're playing for jobs. So they're going to give it their all. And our defense isn't good enough right now. So can the defense get right? Does shutting out a bad Giants team or holding a bad Giants team to single-digit points, does that get them right? I mean, or does it just give them a false sense of hope? That's the thing with this week. I really see too much of in my mind, playing the starters to get right. Too much in my mind says that gives you a false sense of success, false sense of where you are as a team. I would rather them sit back and watch to an extent and maybe get a breather. And maybe that slows things down for them. Kind of like a baseball hitter. Wouldn't that also meaning sitting hurts because of lower body injury? Yeah. Is he still really? I mean, yeah, the knee is not 100%. But I think he's as healthy as he's been since the start of the year. I've seen him run a little bit more effectively the last few weeks. I haven't seen the giddy up in his step where he's limping a little bit after plays. I would have no problem, Doc, sitting Jalen Hurts the entire game because of the situation in New York with that turf, with the injury risk. I would have no problem doing it. No problem at all. Or at the very least, limiting him to a few drives. Personally, if it was me, I would probably play the game as a preseason game. Starters, 3-4 drives. Once you have one effective drive where you see what you want to see, then you yank the starters. Then you go to the backups. Then you go to Mariota. That would be me. But honestly, it's like, I have no idea. We see and hear so much being said about this team, about the coaches, from the media, from the coaches and players themselves. Yet, we haven't heard one thing about and I don't want to give the Giants a leg up on prep. Like, you don't want to tell them ahead of time too much and let them prepare for Mariota over Hurts. We have no clue what the thought process right now is going on down at the NovaCare complex. Hell, even if this was a meaningful game, we have no clue what's going on down there. I mean, hell, yeah, Jeff McClain talking to his son Reddick this week, and we're gonna get into that in a second. Let me catch up these last 3 comments here. That's the first time we've talked hockey in 2 weeks. Yeah, lower body injury. That's the only hockey term that I can add. And the Flyers lost last night, so this would not be the time. I'd be called a negatron if I brought the Flyers up today for the first time after a loss. That would be just Mr. Negatron me. Hit that like button. That is right, Peanut. Like button, share button, retweet button, follow button, wherever you're watching. Please, please, please do that for me. Washington beat Dallas at this time last year. I'm just saying. And I forget what that had to do with the playoff schedule and stuff like that. Isn't that what's, I mean, they were in the wild card last year, the Giants. So I don't remember the exact situation, how it played out, K1. But yeah, I do remember that. Anybody can win on any given Sunday. There's also the thought process, and these are all just thought processes I've seen and read. Not that I am agreeing with any of them or saying that they're my opinion. But there's also the thought process that this team just got beat by the Cardinals. Why risk them getting beat by the Giants and crushing their confidence even more? The only people that should be rooting for them to lose to the Giants would be the Fire Nick Sirianni group, because that would be one of those disastrous situations that would bring that back into the conversation. But it's not going to happen. But that is, anything can happen on any given Sunday. But I feel much better about this team losing to the Giants with Mariota as the starter than Jalen Hurts. The MVP had to get its first show of the game. What's up, Adam? Good morning. Happy New Year to you. Hope you're well. What is up, TMC? How you doing this morning? Do I have to stop calling TMC? He changed his name and has left at Battlehawk. So I got to start calling him Battlehawk, I'm going to call him the Super Fan, because he's my super fan. So to the Hassan Reddick situation, this is, just more issues with what's being said or what's getting said around the locker room, around practice, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm pulling up the tweet on my side screen so I can read the quote. Hassan Reddick said to Jeff McLean about the struggles on defense versus the Cardinals, and did it have to do with the changing at coordinators. And he said, I think a lot of it, we changed coordinators. They got a different style, a different way. They want things done. And it's pretty much what it is. Patricia's in there now. He has a certain way that he would like things to be done. And we're doing our best to adapt to that in the time period that we have, trying to get everybody on the same page moving forward. That way, we can be great in the playoffs. Now, that comment says that Matt Patricia is the defensive coordinator, if you read between the line. I thought we've been told that Sean Desai is still the defensive coordinator. He's still the one drawing up the schemes. Patricia's just calling the plays. Then you got one of your defensive leaders and captains, one of your your only defensive Pro Bowler, saying that Patricia is the coordinator and trying to change things, not run the same system that Sean Desai did. So still at this point, we've got a lot of miscommunication coming out throughout the woodwork, showing its ugly face. This is the time for this team to grow together, get better. Reddick basically passed the buck. Reddick basically said what we kind of feel and knew, but what was totally contradictory of what Nick Sirianni has said now for how many weeks has it been? 3 weeks or whatever? Was it Seattle was the first week? I forget how many weeks it's been since Patricia took over. First off, Reddick speaks his mind. Reddick, while he's a Philadelphia guy, went to Temple. I believe it was Temple. We love him here. He's a great player. He's never fully felt like he was all in. He had a 3-year deal. He was underpaid here. He took a discount to come here. We knew he was already unhappy with his contract to start this season. We know there's going to be a dilemma with him in the offseason. I kind of feel like he's just covering his ass, whether when he goes to renegotiate his contract after this season or try to get traded somewhere else and renegotiate there, trying to make sure people realize that's not all his fault. His dip in numbers. I don't know what his exact sack number is. I had stats up. Hold on. His exact numbers. Let's pull up sack sort. He's had 11 sacks. He's had, 37 tackles. Got 1 pass defended, 1 forced fumble. Not Hassan Reddick numbers. I mean, still double-digit sacks, but not like he was doing last year or the year before that. So the Reddick thing, though, it's what we knew, but also, it's continuing to show that there's cracks in the armor here. Yeah, so TMC should be the super chatter, not super fan. He wants to stay as TMC. So we will definitely not call you TMC. if that's what you want. You hurt yourself on that one. I told you that's why the defense is even worse than under Desai because it's a change and not just a switch as they tried to make it seem. And it's a problem. It's definitely going to be an issue. What we see this week, again, start them, sit them, doesn't matter. Because this week, against the Giants and their backups and whatnot, does that matter when next week you're going up against Tampa? And, Tampa is a 500 team, but Tampa is a playoff team. They're winning their division. They've got weapons on offense. They've got a passing attack. Baker Mayfield, not a great quarterback, but not a bad quarterback. Playing better than he has before because he's got, two elite wide receivers. And I don't know. I'm kind of curious now, since we most likely will be facing them. Let me pull up Tampa for a second. I'm curious what their stats say about them, what their wide receivers. Let's see. Baker Mayfield's got more passing yards and about the same touchdown, about the same in yards and touchdowns as Jalen Hurts. You got a great running back in Rashid White. Mike Evans is at 1,200 yards. Godwin's at almost 1,000. 13 touchdowns for Mike Evans. Only 2 for Chris Godwin. Wow. Rashad White's got over 500 receiving yards to go with his 900 rushing yards. Wow. And they got a solid tight end that's up and coming in Cade Otton. I mean, you've got an offense there that this defense, the way they're playing, is going to struggle against. And the question is, do you rest them so at least they're fresh for next week? Or do you put them out there, risk them hurting their confidence, or risk them building confidence, or put them in a position to build their confidence? What do you do? And again, I'm in the boat that you give them some opportunity to get their confidence back, but very conservatively. And you don't want to risk Fletcher Cox, Avonte Maddox, Darius Slay, Zach Cunningham in this game this week. Especially if this was being played in Philly, I might have a totally different opinion on who to play and who not to play. I really would. But the stats don't lie. The amount of people that get hurt in northern Jersey there, I just would never do. What is up, Travis? Good morning, my man. Patricia is an idiot to try and implement a new scheme this late in the season. He should be making adjustments to the current scheme. Patricia can't adjust his style if needed, as a vet DC should. Yeah, I mean, look, we knew when we heard the breaking news that he was making the change at the play caller on defense that it wasn't going to solve the issue. They weren't going to automatically turn into tacklers all of a sudden. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just false information coming out of the offices of the Philadelphia Eagles. Is he the defensive coordinator or is he not? Are we allowed to put blame on Patricia? Are we not? Is it all on Desai? Is Desai still just the straight scapegoat? Desai's gone no matter what, so we're going to say it's his fault no matter what Patricia does. I don't know. Patricia isn't solving the issue. It doesn't matter who the DC is. The defense needs to execute and focus on fundamentals, which are make the damn tackle. Yeah. I mean, I said it last game against the Cardinals. I've seen high school teams tackle better than this Eagles defense. I mean, I could count so many times just last week when somebody with the ball in their hands on the Cardinals offense was running north-south and the defense was running away from the person because of bad angles. They didn't want to make the tackle. They didn't know how to tackle. And I'm not saying they got to tackle more in practice or in training camp, but the fundamentals of Sirianni's practice routine might need adjustments. The way he does it. I mean, how many times do we see videos from Chris Franklin or Martin Frank or Ed Kratz, from inside practice? And all they ever practice is ball control, not fumbling the ball with the little sticks, the little jousting sticks trying to poke it out. Maybe it's time to adjust some of those things. Let's work on tackling techniques. Let the defense of players try to strip the ball from the ball carriers in practice. I don't know. Something's got to change there. But the fundamentals of just straight tackling and creating turnovers has been missing for this team this year Far, far, far too much. Yeah, we agree. Yeah, absolutely. Fans just want to win, but there's all kinds of internal issues between players and management. It's just a business to them, but we live and die. It's that I love what you're saying here, Mister. To them, it's a business, it's a job. To us, it's our life. You know what I mean? It's our fandom. We live on the edge, game to game, way more than they do, and it's kind of hard to be a fan of a team in this situation. Patricia and Desai are gone after this season, regardless. Absolutely. Like K1, am I crazy to say that even if the Eagles went on and say won the Super Bowl, they're not going to. This team's not. Let's be honest. Right now, January 5th, Eagles are not good enough to win the Super Bowl. Done. No doubt about it. But even if they did win the Super Bowl, I mean, it would be a miracle, and we'd be excited. Nobody is staying at a coordinator position, and Patricia, throw him in there. Patricia Desai, Brian Johnson, all gone. All gone after this year. It's the way it is. It doesn't matter what happens tomorrow or Sunday. It doesn't matter what happens next week in Tampa. What matters is that they're going to be gone. Tackling has been an issue on and off for the Eagles for years. Under Doug P, we couldn't tackle worth a crap. So, Duck, and that might be true. I'm more recency focused than looking back 5 years right now. Doug Peterson ran a fairly conservative practice, style as well. Has tackling just been bad in the NFL as a whole? A lot of teams have more tackling issues. Is it just this new style? Less padded practices, less full contact practices, that the basics that are taught as a kid, aren't being taught it either right now because you're protecting kids. More townships and counties and states are instituting flag football to a later age. There just might be an issue in football in general with tackling. It doesn't mean it's right, but maybe there's some practice issues throughout the whole entire system of football that are causing this. Maybe the pros just gotta hit a little harder in practice, and more needs to be done in the preseason and training camp to get these guys ready for the regular season. Even if we won the Super Bowl, Desai and Patricia are gone, it will be offensive win, not a defensive win. That's fair. And that's very true. Very, very true. If we win anything, it's going to be because of the offense. But then that goes to, though, the other side of the equation, Doc. If the offense is what's got to carry us, and that's fine. I'm fine with the offense carrying us. The offense carried us in 2017, even in the playoffs. Well, the defense played pretty well in the playoffs until the Super Bowl as well. The defense played well against the Vikings. They played solid against the Falcons, etc. So wouldn't the offense being needed to carry us then make it a point that you should be playing your starters on offense to get them back in a rhythm, even though you're risking injuries? You can't really get in like, you are who you are by week 18, but maybe a little momentum can be found somewhere. Does that make sense there then? As a reason, because I'm still torn. I don't have an opinion on who to start, who to not to start. I think I read somewhere that you could sit 7 players on your active roster. I'm going to try to come up with 7 here. That if I was going to sit 7, who would they be? Slay, Cunningham, and Smith would be the first 3. That would leave 4 more people that I can bench for this game, and I'm not sure who to do. Completely bench. Main problem is our secondary has been musical chairs all season. Hard to maintain continuity no matter who the defensive coordinator is. Has it been musical chairs? Because Slay just recently got hurt. Bradbury's been healthy most of the year. Reed Blankenship's missed, 3 games? Our safeties have been bad, interchangeable all year. But Slay and Bradbury for a majority of the year were there. They were just bad. It's just that there's not enough talent. It's not that Slay and Bradbury there's musical chairs there. They're just not as good as they used to be. The second safety has not been as good as they need to be. Linebacker just has not been as good as it should be. Morning, Mitchie Poo. How you doing? Do you like the Eagles players who made the Pro Bowl? Yeah, I mean the players that made the Pro Bowl deserved it for sure. I think Jake Elliott definitely got snubbed. And honestly, I feel like this sounds homerish, but I kind of feel like Jalen Hurts got snubbed. He shouldn't be an alternate. He should be starting. No offense to Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, I think, made it over him. And I think, Matt Stafford, I predicted them and the Rams having a good season, but I think Jalen Hurts probably had a better season. It's the turnovers that probably kept Jalen Hurts out of officially making the Pro Bowl. But that's it. A linebacker position is where most tackling happens in football. With the Eagles not investing in linebacker, we will never be a good tackling team. Mista, yeah, for sure. Um, Linebackers normally lead the league in tackles. Actually, let me pull up NFL stats. NFL stats. I bet you a majority of the tacklers on defense lead or the. Let's see here. Intercept. What the hell? This is always so hard. There it is. Defensive leaders. Okay. All right. Leading tacklers in the NFL. Zaire Franklin from the Colts leads the league in tackles. Guess what? He's a linebacker. Bobby Wagner, a linebacker. Oh my God. Fourth is Alex Singleton. But man, try to make me pronounce this linebacker from the Jaguars name. Foyesade Olukun, third in the league in tackles. When you think about it, all linebackers, top four. Roquan Smith, fifth. Linebacker. Al Shazier, number 6. Linebacker. Let's see. 7, TJ Edwards. 8, Ernest Jones. Linebacker. 9th is CJ Mosley, linebacker. And 10th, Giants, Bobby. So all 10 leaders in tackles in the NFL are linebackers. I don't even want to know where the Eagles linebackers fit in this position because we've complimented Zach Cunningham and we've complimented, Nicholas Morrow from time to time this season. But let's be honest, they're not tackling machines or anything like that. I can't believe I'm at the point where I'm saying I want Alex Singleton back at midnight green. Let the starters play 3 quarters, blow out the Giants, and then sit them in the 4th. Fair opinion. I said 2 quarters. You're saying 3. You do put them at risk, Armada, getting hurt on a very injury-prone turf. It's a risk. But I'm playing that risk probably, Armand. The problem is not the offensive rhythm. It's the play calling, what they are telling Hurts to look for. And before I even get into it, they need to get him back to a Steichen-style read. It's too late, though, Duck, probably. But I love this part in your comment here, what they are telling Hurts to look for. Because I've been saying this all year. It's not his fault he's playing hero ball. It's not his fault he's going deep all the time. It's probably what they're telling him. They're coaching him to do. That's the problem. Now, how do you solve it? Hey, we need a new offensive coordinator. Who's Shane Steichen's offensive coordinator right now in Indy? Maybe that's the guy that should be our offensive coordinator. Or who's somebody from Shane. The fact that Shane Steichen might have a coaching tree after this year. Maybe that's where we look for our offensive coordinator. Obviously, you can't poach their offensive coordinator to ours. That would be a lateral move for somebody, but you get what I'm saying. I don't like how Jake Elliott didn't make as the best kicker. Yeah, I agree with you, Adam. The guy from the Cowboys, he's a great story. We've heard his story the 2 times we played the Cowboys, and he's a really good kicker too. But he's a rookie. It doesn't have the clutch gene yet, or proven to have the clutch gene that Jake Elliott does. But I get it. There's a lot of popularity in Pro Bowl voting too, and his story resonates with a lot of people. And Dallas fans definitely stuff the ballot boxes for sure. Fake mail-in ballots and stuff like that. We have 2 wide receivers over 1,000 yards and a running back over 1,000 yards. This offense can play and can play on a rhythm. Absolutely. I've said this a lot this week. Everything on paper, if you remember what I said yesterday, when in doubt, zoom out. If you zoom out, the Eagles offense is a damn good football offense. They're just inconsistent because of the play calling. No doubt about it. The scheme. No doubt about it. There's no reason why DeAndre Swift isn't number 2 instead of 4. Like we're pulling teeth here. He's the 4th leading rusher in football. He should be 2. Should be no reason why not. No reason why DeAndre Swift hasn't played more. AJ Brown's gotten his. Sure. Devontae Smith has gotten his 1,000 yards again. It's going to be a shame that he's probably going to miss his first game of his career this week, probably. So I look at somebody like Rasheed White, young running back for the Tampa Bay Bucks, a little over 900 yards rushing and over 500 yards receiving. DeAndre Swift could do it. DeAndre Swift has 200. What did we hear about all offseason? How the running backs were going to be effective in the pass game. Now, between him and Gainwell, they have 69 catches, but they've got only 400 yards receiving on those 60 catches. It's not good. I really thought we'd see more of that. Traditional screens instead of bubble screens. Things like that. Swift, in the slot. Quez Watkins brings you nothing to the table in the slot. Why isn't Swift in the slot occasionally, or Kenneth Gainwell? We saw more Kenneth Gainwell in the slot last year than we did this year. We saw it like twice all year. Swift and Gainwell. I remember talking on this show on a Monday, a Victory Monday. Look, they put Swift and Gainwell in the backfield, and it was an effective play. I forget what week it was. Then they never went back to it. Got to monitor the Cowboys game. If they're close, then we have to play for the win. And I think that's a fair way to look at it. And that's probably Kyle. Happy New Year to you, Kyle. Love the pictures of your new dog. It's probably what Nick Sirianni's going to do. Nick Sirianni's going to play the game with somebody in his ear, letting him know what's going on in that Cowboys game. And as soon as the Cowboys are up 20 at halftime or 25 in the third quarter, then the starters get the axe. But until that point, until the Cowboys pull away, and look, it's a lot more meaningful. Like, the Cowboys want to win the division. And the Cowboys might be doing the same thing, keeping an ear to what the Eagles are doing. But the Cowboys need that division. They need it. The Eagles want the division, but, the odds are, it's more important to the Cowboys at this point than the Eagles. Our offense ran 40 plays versus Zona because the defense couldn't get off the field. That's been the chronic problem. Yeah, the third down defense, yeah. But again, K1, you can look at it the other way. You can say that the offense could have ran a more slow-paced, methodical offense and drives and game plan to keep the defense off the field. The offense can help the defense by staying on the field longer. And that's something that we're missing. And I knew you meant plays. What's up, Reality Check? Good morning. Happy Friday to you. Happy weekend. It is the weekend, guys. The first weekend of 2024. What's everybody doing? Up here in the Delaware Valley, we may get snow. We may not. I've heard 1 inch. I've heard 5 inch. I've heard 8 inches. I've heard it dusting. I've now heard 3 inches again. Who the hell knows what's going to happen here in the Philadelphia area this weekend? But yeah, it's going to be something. No Thursday Night Football, thank God, because Thursday Night Football stinks anyway. Super fan TMC. We know that. We know it's terrible. I've said it 100 times, 1,000 times, how much I hate Thursday Night Football. So I was glad there was no Thursday Night Football. But the defense can get that help. Can get that help by the offense. Just doing a little bit more. By staying on the field longer. We've seen half a dozen to a dozen, 10, 15 play drives this year. I think there was one touchdown drive that was 18 plays. That's what they need to do. That's when the defense is at its effective. It's when you're limiting their exposure. And that's what they need to do. Jalen Hurts needs 250 passing yards to break the Eagles' single season passing yard record. Do you think, Mister, that I think, Jalen Hurts deep down inside does care about records and awards. I do think he cares about winning more. Think Jalen Hurts wants that? Probably. Do you think Nick Sirianni even knows? Nick Sirianni probably knows. Do you think Nick Sirianni plays that into an account? Could you imagine the outrage if Jalen Hurts is playing because of that and he gets hurt and it comes out? Because this locker room and this organization is full of leaks all over the place. Could you imagine a scenario where Jalen Hurts plays and gets hurt and it comes out through the media because he was trying to get the record? Oh my God. That would be an insane. We'd be talking about that for an entire show. Who to blame for that, what to blame for that, why it happened. Records are great and all. But if they played better throughout the year, we would already have that record. So So glad Slay is back in practicing and Maddox is back as well. Yeah, but still, Slay would be on my list. If you could pick 7 guys to definitely sit, Slay would be one of them. Lower body injury, coming back after a surgery, hasn't played in 3-4 weeks. East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Meadowlands, MetLife, whatever you call it nowadays, not the place to come back and get back in the groove. Avonte Maddox was back last week, did not look good, got banged up. He did practice. I'd be limited in his exposure this week. If he tried to make a tackle and landed on that hard turf the wrong way, shoulder, elbow, any of that, like that. Now, it's a risk. Anybody could get hurt on any game in any city, but this is obviously a city where it happens far too frequently. I'm not going to be like, I'll cry when the day comes that our quarterback is back under center consistently, or am I the only one tired of seeing shotgun? Yeah, I mean, I know you said that before. Um, Look, shotgun and RPOs kind of go hand in hand. And even if they're not running the RPO officially, they're sort of in an RPO system still. I've talked about it that maybe they're saving some of the RPOs for the playoffs. But Jalen Hurts works best in that shotgun. Um, I bet you if you looked across the league, yeah, the Eagles run shotgun more than most teams, but I bet you a lot of teams, a lot more teams than you realize, run shotgun more than you think or you would like to see. Your opinion wise. I just think it's part of the new NFL. You got a lot of mobile quarterbacks, a lot of running quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks that have the option to pull the ball back from a running back and take off. Even the most pocket present quarterbacks still are very mobile nowadays. You know, MVP candidates like Lamar Jackson out of shotgun most of the time. You know what I mean? A lot of the young quarterbacks in the NFL, the Anthony Richardsons of the world, out of shotgun a lot. That's just the way the NFL is nowadays. Um, Not saying I like it, just saying that's how it is. And you go under center. Does that really change much? Maybe it makes Jalen Hurts uncomfortable being under center as well. You know, my big issue with him in the shotgun formation, excuse me, my biggest issue with Jalen Hurts reality check under center or out of shotgun so frequently is how they snap the ball, where it makes it so easy for the defense because you always got the left guard, Cam Jurgens or whoever, or the right guard, looking back at Hurts, and when he's ready to snap the ball, he taps on Kelsey's butt, and it's an instant snap. There's not enough. It's so easy for the defense to count the snap. So that is something that needs to be adjusted out of shotgun. But that's about it. You're not going to see it change, especially now week 18. Up and say, yeah, I get it, and I understand the frustration. No, I know, but mix it up. Yeah, I mean, mix up everything on offense and defense. This team is so predictable in so many different facets of the game that it's got to be mixed up somehow. Predictability in football is such a bad thing and bad reputation to have. The offense is predictable. What the defense is going to do is predictable. The only thing that's not predictable is specialty. Well, it is predictable that Elliott's going to make the kick and Britton Covey. Everybody talks about the play Pro Bowl snubs. I think Britton Covey is snubbed. He's the best punt returner in football. That's the only thing that's predictable in a good way is that Covey's going to have a good return and Jake Elliott's going to make the kick. The rest of the predictability of this team is not good. Again, I go back to that Christian McCaffrey on Sunday or Monday Night Football during the Manning cast, and he's like, oh, he joins the telecast. First play he sees, oh, it's going to be a quarterback draw behind the guard. Like that's how predictable. Guys not paying attention to the game can look at one play before it happens and say, call the play out to a T. Tight end's going to shift and block and this. And it worked out to a T. That's not good. That's a bad predictability. And that's the problem this team has. Too much predictability. Whether it's in shotgun, under center, whatnot. They do need to mix it up a little bit more. Hurts can play under center, just got to keep them guessing. I just feel you lose a lot of momentum. Well, yeah, from a running back perspective, it's better out of a under center. Problem is we're not a running offense though. We are pass first offense. Um, so that's the problem. Not like you can't run inside zone under center. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm not saying they shouldn't line up under center. I'm just saying, maybe there's a part of it that's what Jalen Hurts wants. Maybe that's what Jalen Hurts, says that he doesn't feel comfortable as much under center. I'm not saying that it's the truth or whatnot. I'm just saying maybe that's the case. Not sure. Adam says mix up the defense with having someone blitz up the middle sometimes. Never seen that much. Yeah, I mean, I think the term blitzing or the phrase they have to blitz more or blitz less, anything. I think that's that's not the way to talk about it. The Eagles were successful last year not blitzing much. But when you send pressure and if you have 5 guys even just going, after the quarterback, where that 5th guy comes from, up the middle, a corner. When was the last time there was a cornerback or safety blitz? You can have just 4 guys, your 4 linemen, and then bring a cornerback up from the edge or safety up the middle. You don't see that. Is a 5-man blitz still a blitz? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on the situation. But where the pressure comes from, because Reddick and Sweat are not getting pressure. What's the stat? Like they've had 11 sacks total in the last 7 games. It's not good. The almost sack. I'm so tired of saying almost sacks on this show. They don't wrap up well when they get to the quarterback, but also they don't do it enough. If they get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback, pressure if you don't get the sack should create turnovers. We're probably one of the worst teams in the league create turnovers. I don't know what the exact stat is. Anybody got a computer up? My guess is the Eagles are in the bottom 5 in turnovers created on defense. On the flip side, they're one of the top turnover offenses as well. That's discipline there on offense and defense. I think most starters will rest for the playoffs by halftime, but it would be cool if Hurts catches fire in the first half and throws 250 yards, Mister. Would be a lot of first half passing yards. The Giants defense stinks, yes, but that would be very hard to see them have 250 passing yards in the first half, for sure. That'd be a lot. I understand people want blitzes, but what is the point of blitzing when your blitzes don't get home? Exactly. Problem is we have no linebackers that can blitz. I would think Sidney Brown would be a great blitzer. The way he goes at 100 miles an hour, he might not. He might get one of those almost sacks. But where's blitz your front 4, front 3, front 4, and have Sidney Brown just time a snap and just come flying in out of the secondary. Where's that? Now, the counter to that, the blitzing, is what Kwan says here. If we would be killed if we blitz. That is an issue. If you start sending 7, 6, 7, 8 man all out blitzes, our secondary would get exposed beyond belief. We like Kelly Ringo. We like Eli Rick, Sidney Brown, etc. We like Reed Blankenship. A lot of them are inexperienced. Slay has been good, not great. Bradbury has been trash. Those guys would get exposed massively if we blitzed more frequently. Blitzing is a skill that requires discipline. Well, I think we've pretty much agreed that this team as a whole, all 53 men on it, have very little discipline, for sure. Now, the Cowboys or Eagles can see Week 18 as an easy win. So, as a Cowboys fan, I mean, what are Cowboys planning to do with their game plan against Washington? See, it's weird because the Cowboys are double-digit favorites against Washington, Lucio. The Eagles are only 6-point favorites against the Giants. Both Washington and the Giants are playing for draft position. I would assume that's Washington's case as well. Do you play your starters? Do you not? What is the game plan, Lucio, for the Cowboys, which in turn helps us Eagles fans know what should be done? Eagles are 27th with only 17 total takeaways. That is just barely won a game. I'm actually surprised that we've had 17 takeaways. I don't even remember where those 17 have come from, Kyle, but that's intense that it's that low. Yeah, if we blitzed, we would be sending Slay and Bradbury to the retirement home. Yeah, Slay and Bradbury would be left on an island. Now, last year, they were able to get after the quarterback without blitzing. That's why they had 70 sacks. This year, what do we got? Like 42 sacks on the season? That's a big difference. Putting them in exposure there. This Giants game would put me at ease if we blow them out and make the playoff statement, gain our confidence. But Armand, and if you missed the opening and my opening monologue, that's what I'm going to call now the start of my show. The opening monologue. Like Johnny Carson, after my monologue, when I get to the questions, I should take a golf swing. Fairway to heaven. Back next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. for the start of the PGA season. And my two picks that I picked, Tom Kim and Colin Morikawa to win this week, tournament champions, both right there at the top of the leaderboard. That's why you got to follow me, man. I pick golf. Pick golf winners. But anyway, I said it. Does blowing out the Giants actually solve the confidence issue on this team? Because it's just the Giants. Team trying to lose. A team that is playing for draft position, not to win the game. The players might be playing to win the game, but the coaches are going to coach to be so conservative that they lose the game. That's what the Cardinals, again, I can't get over the onside kick that the Cardinals tried, that Jonathan Gannon tried. It was a gift. We don't want to win the game. It's weird. A super aggressive, bold call was actually a conservative call to try to lose a game. And we still lost. All the doo-doo teams need to go home. This time of the year sucks. It really does. Because there's so many teams that are just trying to tank, so to say, to use a Sixers term. You know, this team is good when they're having fun. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody having fun, Armand, in a long time. There's way too many frowns. There's way too many heads down. Way too many locker room leaks. Way too many finger pointing. You know, Reddick pointing at Patricia as a problem this week. You know, way too much finger pointing on this team. Pretty sure the Commanders have 2 picks locked up. Do they? I'm not sure. I mean, let me pull up the standings real quick in the NFL. I might be able to tell based off of this. Let's go league-wide standings. Nope, that's still conference. There we go. League-wide. No. Washington there's a 3-way tie. So Carolina's got the 1 pick locked up. Well, they don't even have a first-round pick. So I forget who's got their 1 pick. But the Patriots, Cardinals, and Commanders all have 4 losses. Or 4 wins only. The Chargers, Titans, Giants all have 5 losses. So that's your top 7. The Jets have 6. So the Commanders, I guess, technically don't have it locked up because if they won, they would go up to 5, whatever. There's a lot that can happen there. So I don't think it's locked up. Rasul Douglas had 3 of the turnovers last week. He's the best. Rasul Douglas has turned into a solid cornerback after leaving Philly. Players on Washington playing for their careers for next year. Absolutely. Same thing with the Giants, Lucio. But as I've been saying, the coaches are going to coach, but then, especially in the second half, they're going to coach conservatively. They'll punt on 4th down when they could hypothetically go for it. They might kick a field goal when they can go for it. They're going to call a run play on 3rd and 9. You know, they're going to kneel on the ball close to halftime when they could probably try to score. They're going to coach in a conservative way that doesn't give them any chance at winning. But they are playing for their careers, for sure. A lot of players on a lot of bad teams are doing that. Just think about it. The backups on our team would start on other teams. Some of them. The backups on bad teams could be out of football next year. I played linebacker in a defense similar to the Eagles. The hard part about blitzing is it changes everyone's responsibility and coverage I love that word, discombobulated to be an effective blitzing team. And you're spot on. I always thought if I played football, I would be a linebacker, not or a tight end. I always thought that I'm not fast enough to play other positions. I'm not big enough to play the line. I probably would have been a linebacker too, Misty, if I played football. Gannon don't look that bad now, huh? God, I want Schwartz back. Thanks, Eagles fans, for chasing him away because you couldn't handle the wide nine. We couldn't handle the sticks defense. I still remember reality check. I had Craig James, former Eagles cornerback, on a show when I was my first network I worked with, the one I started, and we had him on. I tried so many times to get him to criticize sticks defense. I phrased like 4 different questions, different ways, all with the same thing, trying to get him to say it's not a good style defense. It was when he was injured with the Eagles back during Jim Schwartz's era, and he just wouldn't. I couldn't get him. He smiled and grinned a few times, but I could not get him to to criticize Jim Schwartz's stick defense. The Bears have number one. It's the Bears. I knew it was somebody. K1 couldn't remember who it was. It is the Bears. What are the Bears? I think the Bears are going to trade that one pick, and they're going to get a haul. You look at it. Teams in the bottom there that won't get the one pick. The Giants maybe need a quarterback. The Commanders might need a quarterback. The Cardinals aren't sold. The Patriots need a quarterback. They could trade that one pick and get a haul. The Broncos might want to trade and get a pick if they're moving on from what's his name. The Vikings might want that one pick. They are going to get a haul for that one pick if they decide to trade it. And I don't know, Caleb Williams, what you guys think of him or any other quarterback in the draft. They're going to get a haul for that pick. No doubt about it. Anytime you get down as an Eagles fan, imagine rooting for Carolina. Imagine trading all that to go get Bryce Young. And I'm not writing the kid off yet. Excuse me. I'm not writing him off totally. You can't write a quarterback off after 1 year. But that's why most of the time, when you're drafted so high, number one overall, you're going to a bad team or a bad organization. And you have to be so great to be able to rise above that bad organization, to not have your career totally ruined. So many quarterbacks get ruined being a top pick because of that. That's why it's better to get drafted in the second or third round as a quarterback, because then you can be sat for a year. You can be eased into the rotation. There's not as much pressure. When you're a number one pick, hey, Derek Barnett is in the conversation after yesterday on social media. We're going to talk about him in a minute. There's a lot of pressure being a number one pick. Just the way it is. I want to throw my drink at K1. Stop. I think the Bears trade Fields and take Caleb at 1 and use the extra capital from Fields to rebuild around Caleb. Yeah, I've thought that as a possibility, reality check. I have. I'm not sure. They're either going to keep Fields and trade and get a lot of draft picks to build around Fields, or they're going to do what you say. I'm not sold on Justin Fields. I think it would be a big mistake, though, for the Bears to give up on Justin Fields already. He kind of leveled out. He's not, great. Like I said, people were calling him the next Jalen Hurts this year. We see how that worked out for them. He's also banged up. The team is just not a good team. The team is not well coached. They've got a lot of holes on this team. Depends on what you can get for if I was a Bears front office person, I'd be thinking of two things. Do we think we can win with Justin Fields? What can you get for that one pick if you traded it? And what can you get for Justin Fields if you traded him? The answer to those three questions I'd put up on 3 bulletin boards, and I'd start talking about which scenario would be best for the long-term future of this team. But where is this? I wanted to see this. Full disclosure, I wanted to draft Justin. I did not want Justin Fields. Look, first off, there's the cheesy, I don't know if it's cheesy, the conversation that no Ohio State quarterback's ever been super effective in the NFL. You can make that conversation. But I don't know. Justin Fields, everybody calls Jalen Hurts a running back that's a playing quarterback. But Jalen Hurts has shown that he can throw the ball. I don't think Justin Fields has shown as much. But it's also that organization's Justin Fields in Philly on this team would be much more effective than he is in Chicago. Because it's strong. Even though we're down on the Eagles organization, it is still a pretty strong organization, big picture. But the Bears are they are a dumpster fire for sure of an organization. I don't know who's worse, the Bears organization or Carolina organization. Not worried about the Bears either. They will figure out how to screw it up. Yeah, probably. They will. All right, we're going to do a quick reset because I want to get into this Derek Barnett conversation here. Something that's been, talking about first-round picks and whatnot. But you're watching Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live across Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, TikTok. No, what am I talking about right now? We're live on Facebook, YouTube, X. Hit that like, hit that share, hit that. I need a reset right now. Hit those like and share and follow buttons. Drop your comments if you're watching on X. Click the video, opens up the comment box. You can comment on the show like everybody's doing on YouTube and Facebook right now. I need the reset right now. I'm Phil Stiefel, your host here every morning, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday, talking all things Philadelphia and sports that's trending. But yeah, right back to the comments. Yeah, I need a reset. So we're gonna take a sip of coffee, and we're gonna continue right along here. Yeah, TikTok reset. I have no idea what just happened to me there, K1. My mind just it's what happens. My mind is lost sometimes from time to time. Can't help it. Don't know what happens. But my mind definitely just we'll just say my mind freezes on occasion. And I had a little bit of a freeze there. Um, it is what it is. I know it's funny as can be. I literally I can't stop thinking about what I just said and how much I just butchered it. Carolina's worst problem. The amount they traded to get that pick, to get Bryce Young, um, disaster. And then they paid Miles Sanders so much money. Not good. Chicago can be fixed, but it will take time, and they just don't want to do it. Carolina changes at the smallest drop of a hat. Yeah, for sure. And moving on from Frank Reich so quickly, that was a mistake in Carolina as well. Look, whatever. I'm not worried about Carolina and Chicago. I'm worried about the Philadelphia Eagles. It's funny, something that started talking about Hassan Reddick and his comments, and some media member yesterday shared out some information that blew up Eagles Twitter, Eagles X, whatever you want to call it, about Derek Barnett and how he's playing now, that he's outside of Philadelphia. And man, there are a lot of people that hate Derek Barnett out there in Philadelphia because I put out a tweet and the comments that I got because of my tweet, insane how many people are still Derek Barnett fans or haters. So, as a full-time player for Houston, Derek Barnett has registered 2.5 sacks the last 3 weeks. He leads all edge rushers with 7 quarterback hits in those last 3 weeks and tied for 9th in pressures with 15 pressures. It's a Cody Schwartz is his name. And he says it's an indictment on the Eagles, whatever. So I brought it up that I did not want to move on from Derek Barnett. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but the defense has struggled more since Derek Barnett's been gone, especially against the run. And on a per snap percentage basis, he was our best run stopper on the outside for this Eagles team. And our defense against the run is slacked since he's been gone. But man, let me tell you something. Some of the comments. So all I did was I said I reminded people that I said it would be a loss, and not saying he's a special talent, but he's a bigger piece than most realize. Some context, played the Titans twice, and that was a part of it. Going up against Andre Dillard. I got in heated arguments. I questioned it at the time. Dude was talented, but boneheaded penalties. Like at least 20 comments about dumb penalties that Derek Barnett made. He literally did nothing. And it's crazy how many people got into my comments to bash Derek Barnett more. It's insane. I mean, the last 3 weeks, 9th in pressures, 2nd in quarterback hits, and tied for most sacks in the last 3 weeks. Yes, 2 of those weeks were against Andre Dillard, who was a pretty poor, graded rusher or pass blocker. Not having a great season in Tennessee, not a bad season, but not a great season. This either ends early for us or we advance. Don't matter if we are number 2 or number 5. And I think that's a very true statement, just like K1 agrees with you, Marshawn. We'll get back to that in a second. Barnett was polarizing. It's so crazy. But again, it goes back to same thing with quarterbacks. Anytime you get that first round draft pick number next to your name, it puts a lot of pressure on. Same reason why Nolan Smith everybody's criticizing the Nolan Smith pick over Brian Branch or Joey Porter Jr. First round picks are expected to do certain things right from the get-go, but throughout your career. And not every first round pick works out. But Barnett was one of those guys, brought in here. He had the Reggie White record breaking stat. He broke Reggie White's record. So he kind of came in with that Reggie White name attached to his name. And he wasn't a first round talent. But he's still a solid football player. And he's a solid part of this Eagles team this year. Also made one of the key plays in the Eagles' history, locking up the Super Bowl for us. So he's so polarizing, and it's kind of funny. He is playing well now in a different environment. His time in Philly had run absolutely, but you didn't have anybody to replace him this year, Marshawn. That's the thing. If you wanted to move on from him, You should have moved on from him in the offseason, before the season started or after the season ended. Not in the middle of a season when you don't have a replacement for him. Barnett also got labeled the next Reggie. Exactly. That's what I said. Because he broke Reggie's college record, he was the next Reggie. Just like we've had people called the next Brian Dawkins, the next this, the next that, whatnot. Seriously, our problems are way bigger than Barnett. I get what you're saying, but I know. But I'm just saying the defense has continued to decline faster with Derek Barnett not on this team. Nelson Aguilar is killing it in Baltimore, but do you want him back here? Is this environment where fans called him out? Look, I've been one of Nelson Aguilar's bigger supporters over his career. I thought he got a bad rap here. He had a case of the dropsies for sure. Again, anybody from 2017, special place in my heart, had a huge role, had a lot of big touchdowns in 2017. So I have nothing negative to say about Nelson Aguilar, ever. I'm only saying this team moved on because they have. I don't want this team crying over spilled milk. We're not crying. I just thought it was funny. Someone put out the stats. I shared my opinion, and the amount of hate I got for my opinion on social media, which is kind of shocking to me. That's all. That's all. All I was saying at it. I don't want him back. And him being on this team wouldn't change the fact that whether we're 2 or 5, him playing on this team probably wouldn't change the fact if we're one and done or not in the playoffs. But look at our defense. It's gassed. And that's why if I had to write a list of 7 players to sit this week, a lot of them would be on the defensive side. So I've already said if I could sit 7 players this week to get them healthy, keep them healthy, or get them rest for the playoffs. Darius Slay, Zach Cunningham, Devontae Smith, all lower body injuries would be sitting. Fletcher Cox would be number 4 on my list because I'd be trying to keep him healthy and fresh for the playoffs. Jordan Davis. I know he's only a second-year player, but he leaves out of shape. He looks gassed. He'd be number 5. So right now I got 5 of the 7 guys I'd be sitting, and 4 of those 5 are on the defensive side. Smith had a drop on 3rd and 6 on Sunday that could have saved the game. Why are people not calling him out on news? Like, I've called out Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown plenty this year for the drops, for the fumbles. They've dropped the ball plenty of times this year. And and a lot of the time their drops are in key. It's not like they're dropping a first and 10 pass in the middle of the first quarter. They're dropped like on their own 25-yard line. They're dropping end zone balls, they're dropping deep balls, they're dropping first down balls like on 3rd down. They're making mistakes in critical moments far too much. And Howie will bring that up in the offseason when Devontae Smith says, let's talk money, let's talk extension. Roseman be like, look, you made some mistakes this year. We'll see how that plays out, but it is what it is. Barnett is a 4-3 DN, and the Eagles had him playing 3-4 edge rusher. He could have helped us down the stretch, but he's more effective, and that's fair. That's a great point there, bringing up DeMeco Ryan. That it's a great person for him to work under as well. And he's getting great experience, and he's going to have a team. He'll be on a team next year. Maybe not a starter, maybe a rotational piece, but he'll be somewhere playing next year. We are 6-2 at home and 5-3 on the road. Doesn't matter where we play. Sure. I get it. So that would tell me that you want to rest as many guys as you can then. Because it doesn't matter. The issue is coaching on this team. The players on defense can't play the Fangio scheme. We've been pounding this table in this comment for a couple weeks now. And it's true. And I want to, why is this Vic Fangio scheme so important to run? Like, can't we just have our own scheme? Like, we talked about Buddy Ball and Jim Johnson defensive schemes and wanting that aggressive style. We don't have the personnel for that. But why can't Sean Desai just have his own scheme? Why has he got to run a Fangio scheme? Why can't it be the Sean Desai or the Matt Patricia scheme? Why is it always someone else's scheme that you're trying to run? If you can't take good angles and tackle, you can't play. And that's a huge thing right there, Kaylon. The angles. Wrapping up is obviously important when you're tackling. But getting the right angle. Because that's been Sidney Brown. When he misses tackles, it's not because he's not wrapping up. It's because he's got a bad angle. Angles are so important and not talked about enough when you're a bad tackler. And the angles have been so bad especially in the last 5 weeks, which the losing over the last 5 weeks has amplified that massively. In all honesty, I feel we haven't created pressure on a D because we keep playing Fletcher and Brandon Graham, let these young guys get in. Fletcher Cox has played far too many snaps this year, reality check. And it could be a problem come playoff time. It for sure could be a problem come playoff time because I already see them being gassed a bunch. Defense is bad everywhere. Can we at least go back to being a run? I mean, there was a point this year we were the best run. I mean, it might have been a while ago, but there was a stretch where we were the best run defense in football. Or not, because we let go of Derek Barnett. But isn't that mean we aren't coaching the players properly if they are taking the right angle? We know coaching is a big issue for sure. Morning, what is up, Dave? How you doing this morning? Do we think Dean is a bust? That's an interesting one there. We had Mozart. Imagine him and Swift now. A lot of teams had Mozart, and a lot of teams passed on him. I think Sweaty and Riddick are getting more pressure than last year, but not turning them into sacks. Look, that comes to Dave. Now, part 3 is, my favorite term that I'm getting tired of saying. We lead the league in the almost sack category. The Mozart thing is what it is. Nobody could predict it that Mozart would be what he is this year. And is Dean a bust? Yes and no. He's not a. It's too soon to say he's a bust. But Howie Roseman created him to be a bust by not having a better option if he was not who we thought. He had an injury-prone career in college. He was injured last year, and he went ahead and been injured this year. And he's injured this year, and you don't have anybody that could step in. By putting all your eggs in the Nakobe Dean basket, you forced fans and media to call him a bust. Because when he couldn't play, you didn't have anywhere else to go, so you forced to play. And then he got hurt, which was already listed as one of his issues. Is Zach Cunningham really that massive of a factor on this defense, especially in the run game? Yeah, but again, this relates to the Nakobe Dean conversation because Zach Cunningham, over the last 3 years of his career, extremely injury prone. Guess what? He's injured right now, not playing right now, and we're performing worse on defense without Zach Cunningham. That's the thing. You had injury-prone guys and practice squatters at linebacker. If I had a poll, maybe I'll run this poll after the show on Twitter, and you follow me on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge, right there. What is a bigger issue for this team? The lack of investment in linebacker or the lack of investment in safety? And don't answer that question in a sense where safety's better or is not as big of a problem because we've got some young guys. Right now, the team on the field this year, going to the playoffs, where did Howie make a bigger lack of judgment in investing in linebacker or safety? Because our safeties are not good going into the playoffs. We've got potential in the future with Sidney Brown, but they're not good. Linebacker, I mean, if everybody's healthy, Cunningham, Shaq Leonard, Morrow could be okay for the playoffs, but they're not good enough overall. Where did Howie make the bigger misstep? Linebacker or safety? Just this year, not big picture. The problem is that what Howie has locked in on as what he wants from this defense. I guess. Goes back to inexperience. Possibly. Can I get a Brian Flores, please, if this thing goes one and done? Brian Flores will not come here to coach our defense, reality check. He's already a defensive coordinator. He's going to be a head coach, reality check, next year. I would say he would be one of there's going to be 8 to 10 head coaching jobs available next year. He is going to be one of the top 3 guys in the interview circle, in my opinion. He should be a coach already. I think we can all agree on that. He got a bad situation. He got out of a bad situation in Miami, but he really got screwed there in Miami. And no, that's not a knock on McDaniels there. I mean, he's doing a good job, Mike McDaniels, with the Dolphins. But Flores will be a head coach. And we're not moving on from Sirianni. I can guarantee that. Through the first 6 weeks, we were the best team against the run. I didn't know if it was through 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, what it was. But I know we were the best for a while there. Desai fell to the third, or Dean fell to the third round. He was a bust already on draft night. That's fair. But we put all our eggs this season in. I'm one. I was hyped for Nakobe Dean. I was glad. I remember first day of practice coming on the show the next day saying, Dean had the green dot on his helmet. Yeah, they're trusting him. I bought the Dean hype. I did. not giving up on the Kobe yet. I'm not either. But I'm also not going into the next season, K-Wan, saying that he's my starter without a shadow of a doubt, using your favorite phrase. He is going to have to compete with somebody else I bring in here for that job. And if he can't win the job, well, sorry. Well, Nick killed the D momentum when you made a coaching change week 13. That was what it was. Dean is a third round pick, for God's sake. He is a third round pick. Third round picks normally make pretty big impacts. Linebacker for sure. Kyle Hamilton and Branch should already be on this team. So linebacker. No, but saying that would be that he made a bigger mistake at safety because he could have had Hamilton or Branch, and he doesn't have them. So linebacker was the bigger mistake, or safety was the bigger mistake based off of your phrase. We had to invest in Hurts. That had downstream salary cap. It had no effect on the salary cap this year or next year, Jalen Hurts. His contract does not play a factor till 2026 in a major way. And by 2026, it is also an option to renegotiate the contract. So there's a chance Jalen Hurts' big contract does not affect the salary cap massively till 27, 28, something like that. Even DB had 2.5 sacks in 3 games since joining the Texans. That tells me it's more our scheme than it's our issue. It's definitely can prove that there's scheme issues there. You need great safeties, especially when you have 30-plus-year-old cornerbacks on the outside. You need linebackers, especially when your DNs are not known in the run game. But maybe it's equal. Oh, you mean head coach. So you want Brian Flores to replace Nick Sirianni immediately. That's fine. Okay, I got you then. And that's a fair opinion. I think Brian Flores would be an excellent head coach. He will be somewhere. I just don't see the Eagles, no matter what happens. Even if we get smoked 40-0 by the Giants and they get smoked in the first round, well, maybe we go down 40-0 to the Giants and 40-0 in the playoffs. Maybe then Sirianni's got to go, but that's about it. I think safety, because we play zone much more than man, it seems now. Yeah, I mean, I would kind of agree with you there on that, Dave. If we're one and done, I bet we do move on from Nick. How much you want to bet? Depends on how we're one and done. Reality check. And I'm not really a better on it because I can't bet this because I have no clue. There's so much miscommunication coming out from this organization and so much fracture in this organization. Who knows? Who knows? Dean actually looks fat and moves slow. That is fixable. You got to want to fix it, though, I guess, too. My wife tells me that all the time. Yeah. Took a second to register that with Marshawn's comment. Oh, man. Dean is a third-round pick. He's not a bust. He's a third-round pick. That means they know he needs development. It's fair. I don't think he fell to the third round because he needed development. I think he fell to the third round because of 2 things: his injury history in college and his size. He's small. He's not just, slow and fat and out of shape like Marshawn says. He's small, too. He's not a big linebacker. Yes. Yeah. Bobby, what's up, my man? I think they give Nick another season. I agree. I think they do. It would take a disaster this week or next for them not. Be picking their next offense coordinator and defense coordinator. See, the thing is, that's the thing. Funny thing you say that. But the front office will be picking the next OC and DC. The coach should be picking their coordinator, shouldn't they? Don't most times you hear about a coach that's going to be available as, going to be a head coach, already talking to guys to be their coordinators and stuff? A lot of guys have their staffs picked out before they're hired as a head coach. But in Philadelphia, the front office picks the assistants. That's a problem. Great safeties make it easier to play press because the safety would have their backs. That's true. Problem with our safeties, it's kind of like, to use a basketball reference, like when there's a problem on defense, Joe Beats slides forward to stop a guy, but then that guy passes it off to somebody else and there's no backside help on defense under the basket, which that makes Joe Beats stay back more frequently. So it's the same thing with safety. It's kind of that same role there. And the Eagles are bad at it. Question is, would Hamilton be Hamilton here in Philly? That's a fair question. We talked earlier, would Justin Fields be better here in Philly than he is in Chicago? I think Kyle Hamilton is so talented, he would be a great safety. Would his role be different here? Would his numbers be different? Maybe. But I still think under any situation, Kyle Hamilton was going to be a stud no matter what. I like Blankenship and Byard. This team would be better with linebackers with the safeties we've got. Maybe, maybe you're right there. Maybe our safeties would be even better. If we had better linebackers though. I don't know. The safety play last year really helped Bradbury and covered up his. Absolutely. I also think the sacks did that as well. But great linebackers keeps this offense in third and long situations because they shut down the runs the middle of the game. It's fair, yeah, for sure. Can we talk about? Can we talk Sixers? Atlanta Bogdanovich can be had. Yeah, he can. I got crushed on social media again because just like everybody hates Derek Barnett, everybody hates Markel Fultz, and somebody in Orlando guy made a comment about Markel Fultz maybe being on the block or some of the guys in Orlando because they got too many guys, too many like guys on the same level in Orlando. I'm like, I bring Markel Fultz back to the Sixers. Oh my god, the hate I got. It just proves that nobody's followed his career after he left Philly. Um, Markel Fultz and Derek Barnett are very similar in the hate they get from the fan base, for sure. The front office picked these OCs and DCs. That would be the difference. Um, yeah. Are we actually talking about whacking a head coach who made the playoffs every year he's been here? There are a lot of people talking about it. And I understand their frustrations, K1. I really do. I really understand that their frustration, but it's just not going to happen. You got to have some stability in your. It's one thing to be Carolina and have no stability, or Chicago and have no stability. You're Philly. You got to have some stability here. You can't keep rotating through coaches like they do here. Um, the only way to truly evaluate Dean is by him being able to stay on the field. You can't, you can't, you can't help the club from the tub. Imagine trading for Surtain and he plays 10 yards off. Yeah, I mean, we talked about trading for Surtain this year. Would you have given up a first and a second round pick for him? And now with what we see in our secondary, maybe still, maybe not. I don't know. But he would be definitely good. Sadly, if Nick stays, Patricia will have another year because Nick is going to give him a fair shot. That would be if next year Matt Patricia's our official, because even though Hassan Reddick says he's the defensive coordinator, the front office and coaching staff says he's still just an assistant of the defense coordinator. But if he's our defensive coordinator next year, God, I will riot on this show. I will dress down this team so much on the show. Would Micah Parsons be as good in Philly? Absolutely. Micah Parsons. You remember my time over at AAT Birds, Adam. I was pining. I was disappointed in Devontae Smith over Micah Parsons. I actually wanted them to trade back up to 6 to get Micah Parsons. But, Devontae Smith is a great player, and that's fine. But, whatever. Kalen, we did it with Doug, so yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If you could pick between Caruso or Bogdanovich, who would you trade for? Depends on the cost, Marshawn. Everyone keeps talking about Caruso, but Caruso is going to be an expensive trade target for the Sixers or for any team in the NBA. So to me, I'm not trading a lot this year. I'm not trading any of our first round picks. I'm barely making I'm making peripheral adjustments to this team, depth adjustments to this team. Caruso's an expensive adjustment, but Donovich might even be an expensive adjustment. Next week, we might have to have some Sixers conversations on this show. Doug was 7-9 his first year. He started out 3-0, and then went 4-9 the rest of the year. The front office wouldn't let Doug pick his own assistants after winning the Super Bowl. You better believe. Absolutely agree. That's a problem, Bobby. Coaches should have a say on their coordinators. Nick was 9-7, not much different. And we're acting like the Eagles are 4-11 this year. We are. Remember, what did I say yesterday? When in doubt, zoom out. We are 11-5. We got 3,000-yard players on offense. We've got a near 4,500-yard quarterback combined. Guys got a chance of breaking the franchise record. Howie whacked Dougie P. Why not a guy who got there and didn't win it? I am saying they should, but I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. All right, we got final 5 minutes. We got to get into predictions here. Firing through these. Micah was drafted as a linebacker because he was. This defense, yeah, Micah would be playing the Hassan Reddick role. Basically, you'd be subbing out Reddick for Parsons. We would never have drafted or signed Reddick if we got Parsons, too. I'm not for firing Doug, but I'm not Howie. Patricia is a fraud who was a crappy head coach and offensive coordinator. The only place he was good defensive coordinator was, yeah, exactly. It was with, Belichick. Sorry, I'm not for firing next year. I'm not for nope. I don't think there's a lot of people that are for it, but there are fans that are calling for it. So do the Eagles win on Sunday, guys? Predictions. It's hard to predict, and it doesn't even matter to predict a win or a loss because is it going to really do anything? Is anything positive going to come out of it? I wrote down 6 predictions: 3 if the starters play a majority of the game, and 3 if they sit a majority of the starters or sit them at least half the game. And I think I wrote down 3 scores if the starters play a majority of the game: 31-17 Eagles, 27-20 Eagles, and 21-27 Eagles lose to the Giants. Because in my mind, you cannot go into any game anymore guaranteeing an Eagles win. If the starters start or sit majority of the game, I wrote 27-24 Eagles, 30-27 Eagles, both close games, and a 31-27 loss. Just calling it a silly, firing Doug Peters or Nick Sirianni is a silly narrative for sure. But anyway, how do you predict it? It doesn't even matter predicting the game. I mean, I have to give a prediction. That's what I do. We can't keep firing our head coaches every 3 to 5 years. Teams like the Giants and Washington do that. Yeah, we need some stability, Bobby, for sure. So Nick Sirianni's here, at least this year. I wouldn't be shocked if we have a good game this week against the Giants. And if we win or lose the first round playoffs, but put up a good fight and it's a close game, would it be shocking? I don't know what his initial contract was. This is Nick Sirianni's, 3rd year? So next year would be his 4th year? Did he sign a 4 or 5 year contract? If he signed a 4-year contract, I wouldn't be shocked if he got an extension after the season. I know the season's been a disaster in our minds, but if you zoom out, it hasn't been. I wouldn't be shocked if Nick Sirianni, to kind of set the players and fans at ease, got an extension after the season. I know, it's crazy to say that. 28-21 Giants were up 21-0 and give up 28 points in the second half to Torpedo. That would be shocking. And that I can buy it though, Marshawn. We will win, and it'll be going into the half with a 3-score lead and make it a heart attack ending. Very possible. Very possible. If the backups are in by that point, I mean, we'll just be kind of coasting watching it. Is there a Vegas line on this game? 6 points. Eagles are favored, which is shocking considering the Cowboys are like 12 or 13-point favorites. I mean, you have to be a complete degenerate to bet this week's game. I'm not bet. I will not place. I will bet. I don't even think I'll bet a same game parlay. Actually, I think my football betting's done for the year because now that golf's back, all my betting and all my units, as they're called in the betting world, will be going towards the golf world. That's about it. I'm done with football, betting, fantasy-wise, all of it. Sirianni has a 5-year contract, so next year will be his 4th year. So at some point, so it would be unlikely that he gets an extension this year. But I wouldn't be even surprised if they give him an extension now to keep that consistency in the organization. Stability is a fake narrative. Look at Pittsburgh. Tomlin only has 1. Pete Carroll only has 1. Sean Payton only has 1. So is consistency important? That's an interesting, fair way to look at it, Chuck. And I love the different narratives you bring. And I think this is a very interesting way to look at it. Very interesting. But consistency in New England, how many does Belichick have? Just saying. I don't know. It's a very interesting narrative you bring up there. And I like it. Patricia will be here. I'm going to write that down. Consistency with coach. I'm highlighting it with my marker. So I remember to bring this up on a tweet or something like that. I want to get more people's opinions. Patricia will be here because Lori and Howie are still enamored. That's a fair way to look at it. 27-24 Eagles. That's fine. It could be. Players can't be complaining about the CBA and getting more money than having execution issues because they don't practice. Why are we blaming the coaches when they don't get big money? That's fair. I got to pick a prediction. I do. So I'm going to go very simple. I'm going to pick 27-20 Eagles. Why not pick a win? I've picked a win every single week this year. I don't know why, but I have. I'm not going to let that change now. Yeah. Okay, when I see this, yes, coaches are guaranteed money. Players are not. And if they get fired, they still get paid. I get that. Nick Sirianni's not going anywhere. I don't even know what made me bring up the whole he might get an extension sooner rather than later for that. But it's an interesting topic for the offseason. Someone bring it up in the offseason if I forget to bring it up. Extending Sirianni for the consistency. Is it important? I don't know. But I got Eagles winning 27-20 over the Giants. I think the starters play at least half the game. Not saying I agree with it, but I think that's what it is. We'll see what happens, guys. But we'll be back here bright and early on Monday, 8 a.m., talking about our playoff opponent, talking about what we saw, talking about God knows what else. But next week, guys, the script changes because everybody is 0-0 starting next week. The playoffs start next week. Whether we win or lose on Sunday, we're in the playoffs next week. This has not been as big of a disaster as we think it has been this year. Because, let's be honest, the only reason why it's a disaster is because we all predicted last year, we didn't predict Super Bowl victory. I mean, I did. I had them in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I had them against the Raiders last year in the Super Bowl. I predicted the Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year. It's not a complete and total disaster. It only is in our minds because we had such high hopes based off of an extraordinary season last year. So, next week, it's a new season. All I know is Denver next year is paying Russ $242 million to play against them. I don't know what the dead cap hit, but yeah, it's not good. Brian Johnson probably makes $100K a year to coach. Hurts makes more than him in one paycheck. That's fair. I doubt he makes only $100K a year, Mister. I think you're slightly undervaluing that. I don't have time left in this show. We're already into overtime to get into that. But that's an off-season conversation. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for another great week. Season 3 of Trending in the AM. Season 4 of Fairway to Heaven starts next week. Playoffs. Yes, playoffs start next week. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, here every morning, 8 a.m., Trending in the AM. Like, subscribe, retweet, follow. Do all of it. Follow me on all social medias at Bearded Knowledge. Y'all have a great day. Y'all have a great weekend. Be careful if it snows. Thank you, Reality Check. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Adam. Love you, my man. Y'all have a great day. Go Birds still. Next week starts a new week, guys. A new season, guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe with the snow and go Birds.